It has been almost 58 years since Aguiyi-Ironsi's regime was removed and about 49 years since Yakubu Gowon was overthrown, but the seeds of discord planted by these two leaders continue to germinate and shape Nigeria's present and its future. In this edition of Hisple Media, we bring to your view how Aguiyi-Ironsi and Yakubu Gowon ruined Nigeria. Please stay with me, Gabriel here. For us to really understand how Aguiyi-Ironsi and Yakubu Gowon ruined Nigeria, we need to go back in time and explain how Nigeria operated before the emergence of the two generals. Although Nigeria officially gained independence from Britain in October 1960, the country still retained Queen Elizabeth II as titular head of state until a new constitution was adopted in 1963. Thereafter, Nigeria became a republic, ushering in the First Republic. During the First Republic, the federal form of the Westminster system of government was adopted. In essence, Nigeria operated a truly fiscal federal system of government in which all federating units were largely autonomous, with limited constitutional powers to the central government. But after the January 1966 coup, more and more constitutional powers were allocated to the central government, a situation that has not only remained but has been made worse by successive administrations. Before the emergence of Aguiyi-Ironsi and Yakubu Gowon, Nigeria's first republic federalism was more disciplined in financial matters and the manner in which state powers was used. Greater competition existed between regions, resulting in greater development and accountability. There was fewer constitutional frictions between the central government and the regions. However, some historians attributed the ethnic crisis of that era to regionalism. In the First Republic, the executive comprised of the president and the prime minister, but the president's powers were generally ceremonial, with Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe of the NCNC occupying the position, while Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa of the Northern People's Congress, the NPC, was the prime minister during that period. The legislature comprised of three elements: the House of Representatives, the Senate, and the President. The Senate had 20 members. The 3 members representing each region were nominated by Electoral College of their regional assembly. 4 members were appointed by the President on the advice of the Prime Minister, while the remaining 4 individuals represented the Federal Capital Territory, that is, Lagos at that time. These 4 were the Oba of Lagos, who was an ex-officio senator, a chief selected by Parliament, and 2 other individuals. Regional parliaments had similar chambers, the House of Assembly and the House of Chiefs. The Senate was modeled after the British House of Lords and the Canadian Senate. At the time of Nigeria's independence, Nigeria operated 3 regions: the Northern Region, the Western Region, and the Eastern Region. But in April 1961, the Federal House of Representatives passed a motion for the creation of the Midwest Region to be carved out of the Western Region. The motion was ratified by other regions in 1962, and by the time Nigeria became a republic in 1963, 4 autonomous regions were being operated. But the emergence of Aguiyi-Ironsi after the January 1966 coup reduced the autonomous powers of the regions and vested more powers on the center. Few months later, General Yakubu Gowon made the situation worse. But we'll get back to that in a moment. Major General Aguiyi-Ironsi achieved this drastic change through Decree No. 34 of 1966, formerly called the Unification Decree. Even after the North rejected the unification and carried out a violent reprisal that ended Ironsi's regime, nothing was done to reverse the decree. Instead, it was made worse. While many Nigerians believe the Unification Decree may have ruined Nigeria, the final nail on Nigeria's regional structure was put by Yakubu Gowon in 1967. But here is where it all started. In a speech delivered to the nation on January 28, 1966, Aguiyi-Ironsi denounced the ills of the Abubakar Tafawa Balewa regime and outlined necessary reforms. He declared that all Nigerians want an end to regionalism. According to him, tribal loyalties and activities which promote tribal consciousness and sectional interests must give way to the urgent task of national reconstruction. The federal military government would preserve Nigeria as a strong nation, he stated. During the same speech, Aguiyi-Ironsi also promised administrative reforms. But no one knew Ironsi was going to achieve this through the controversial Unification Decree No. 34. It may also interest you to note that among the various military decrees that have been enacted in Nigeria since the beginning of military rule, none of them has been as controversial and had far-reaching consequences as the Unification Decree of 1966. But as you will see shortly in this video, this decree may not have done the most damage to the Nigerian Federation. Meanwhile, after Ironsi's nationwide address, there was immediate opposition from governors of the Midwest and the northern regions, Lieutenant Colonel David Akpode-Ejo and Hassan Katsina. Notwithstanding, about 16 days after the nationwide address, precisely on February 13, 1966, Aguiyi-Ironsi kick-started the process of reforming the administrative structure of the country. He appointed a two-man commission headed by Mr. Francis Nwokedi and Mr. Michael Ani to study and report on the unification of administrative structure, public and judicial services. Though Mr. Nwokedi took a tour of the whole North and listened to their views, Ironsi hurriedly announced the Unification Decree No. 34 without waiting for the commission to finish its job. The decree came into effect on the evening of May 24, 1966. Under this decree, the 4 regions were abolished and a group of provinces that correspond with the size of each region were recognized, but governors were appointed. Legislative and executive powers were transferred to the federal government. The public service were unified under a single public service commission, and the military governors also lost the powers to incur expenditure on their own responsibility without prior approval from the federal government. The announcement created tension and violent protests in most parts of Nigeria, especially in the north. The palpable fear of being dominated by the south, especially in the civil service, was real. Meanwhile, while some Nigerians feel that the unification option could have salvaged the country's fortune at the time, others say it was a serious mistake. Because of the far-reaching consequences, some have concluded that the timing of the decree was equally a disaster. Arguably, the Unification Decree did not cause as much damage to the structure of Nigeria as Gowon's Decree No. 14 of May 1967. But how was this achieved during Gowon's era? Well, on assumption of office on the 1st of August 1966, Lieutenant Colonel Yakubu Gowon somehow reversed the Unification Decree No. 34. However, owing to the disorder resulting from the pogrom meted on Igbos and other Easterners in the north, a new system of government could not be fashioned out in replacement for the reversed Decree No. 34. But the need to adopt a new system and create an atmosphere of peaceful coexistence was urgent. Because of the urgency, a meeting was therefore brokered at Aburi in Ghana by General J.A. Ankara to design a form of government for Nigeria. The 2-day meeting, whose outcome is formally called the Aburi Accord, held between January 4th and January 5th, 1967. We have covered this story extensively on this channel, and I will leave links in the description. In Aburi, a return to the federal system of government that existed before the January coup was agreed upon, but the Gowon regime refused to implement the Aburi Accord. However, in place of Ironsi's Decree No. 34 and the Aburi Agreement, Gowon promulgated Decree No. 8. Gowon's Decree No. 8 contained an important condition that no region should exercise executive authority so as to impede or prejudice the exercise of the executive authority of the Federation or to endanger the continuance of the federal government of Nigeria. The decree vested legislative and executive powers of government in the Supreme Military Council, which is to act in concurrence with the regional military governors in all major issues. The revenue derivation formula, which was centralized under Decree No. 34 of Aguiyi-Ironsi, was not changed. Decree No. 8 maintained that all revenues derived from all the regions were paid to Central Treasury in Lagos. The decree further reduced the powers of the regions and retained a clause that vested enormous powers on the central government. But the final nail to Nigeria's regionalism was nailed by Decree No. 14 of May 27, 1967. The decree provided for the abolition of regions and the creation of states, a system that is still adopted to this day. Consequently, 12 states were created out of the regions, with the exception of the Midwest region, which then became a state. Following the creation of states, the question of equitable distribution of national resources arose. This, in turn, led to the inauguration of the Interim Revenue Allocation Review Committee, headed by Chief I.O. Dina in 1968. The committee report did not only uphold aspects of Ironsi's Unification Decree No. 34 of 1966, but further strengthened its provisions. Since then, the choice of Nigeria's federal structure has been largely influenced by a number of factors. Some of these factors include, but not limited to, the burden of history of the colonial era, elite competition, ethnic mistrust, and much later, over-reliance on oil revenue. Despite continued call for true federalism, various commissions set up to look into the revenue derivation and allocation have made the situation worse. The principle of true federalism has continued to be jettisoned to this day. This has not only become the bane of Nigeria's development, but has continued to breed corruption and inter-ethnic mistrust. For now, though, the search for Nigeria's path to nationhood continues. For more on the history of corruption in Nigeria, please click the video displayed here. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Hisple Media. And I'll see you in the next one. Thank you very much for watching. Peace.